Make sure I hit the second go live button. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for coming in to see my fabulous guest who has taken time out of his busy life, not just tonight, but also in 2 weeks. We're going to talk about some anime type stuff. That is Dante from the Anime Underworld. He is going to be my guide to the underworld. You could have called him Charon, you could have called him Zagreus, but he chose Dante instead. Here he is, everybody. Dante, thank you so much for joining me. Tell the folks about yourself.
My name is Dante, and I came from the Anime Underworld. I'm just a storytelling otaku god, here to help mortals find entertainment in these very, very dark times. For without entertainment, we will truly be living in a living, dark hell. But still subscribe to my channel if you want good content.
So we'll actually be looking at his channel in just a second. Good evening, everybody that's here. Thank you all so much for joining me. And if you would, please hit that like button. And also anything that you want to say, anything you want to add to the conversation. This is always recorded, so we can go back and read the comments later. So if I don't get to you, I still want to read your thoughts. So please jot those down for me. First thing we're going to talk about, real quick, just jump right in, is some very, very sad news that has hit the world of entertainment recently. Unfortunately, 2 days ago, we got a real bad confirmation that She-Hulk season 2 will not be happening. And I don't really know how to take that. I don't know how to process. I've been through multiple stages of grief processing at this point, mostly for my own views, because I just thought I could just rip on this and it would be the easiest thing in the world to make fun of. But now they're not going to give me that material anymore. And that's
dark day for all the quote-unquote trolls.
Now Dante actually posted his own short. I'll go to his channel real quick here. That's him in the Anime Underworld. But he posted
still working on stuff.
He posted what he feels would be an appropriate reaction to this news.
Is the sound on?
Yep.
Can you guys hear? Hey, if you guys want some old good entertainment, go watch Wallace and Gromit, Curse of the Were-Rabbit. It's funny, and it's just really funny.
Wallace and Gromit is excellent stuff. So
I'm surprised that thing hasn't become a meme, but I'm bringing it back.
Bringing back the old school stuff. Exactly. So the interesting thing that we found out from this announcement, Tatiana Maslany was talking about this, that basically Disney did not want to do a season 2. Gee, I wonder why. It underperformed. It was memed to death. But we also found out that this television show that looked horrible cost $225 million to make. And this was the level of CGI that we got right here. Obviously, everybody's seen the twerking scene. That looked atrocious. But just, the CGI in general, the fact that they went for a CGI She-Hulk, I think was absolutely insane. And now, Dante, you've read the comics. Like, you knew the original material. Is that right?
For the most part, but let's just say, oh god, when I hear the term butcher a character, no, this is a massacre. No, this is just even though people wanted like a little slice of life from the whole Marvel storytelling shtick, it still bombed in the worst way possible. What's worse is they got the worst people for the job, because one, they didn't know how to do superheroes, and two, they didn't even know how to do law. This is a superhero law movie. You think you need to buy or at least find people who can do the job that you're asking for. This is like a farmer who turns out to be more of a technician.
Yeah, well, we were talking the other day, and you were saying that it would have been so much better to just do a day and night thing, to do courtroom drama during the day, and then she is trying to go get the evidence at night. And they could have just done the back and forth where she's trying to be a superhero, be She-Hulk, to basically serve her lawyer alter ego without getting caught, without, poisoning the tree or whatever legal term that is. And I think that was a great idea. Like, I think that's exactly what this show should have been. It should have been a courtroom comedy drama, and then also her learning her powers at night, like kind of learning that she could take advantage of being She-Hulk and going to get the evidence or get the bad guys or do whatever it is she needed to do to further her career. And there could have been, you know, a comedy of errors, kind of some slapstick stuff on that end, because I do understand that the comics are a little bit, they break the fourth wall. It's a little comedy. It's a little self-referential. And you had talked about that. I think it's an excellent idea.
Yeah, what the show also could have done is that because she pronounced herself as a public figure, you know, and she also has a family, maybe bad guys could have also gone after her family if, you know, they were smart enough in this version of She-Hulk because she announced herself publicly. People figure out, hey, wait, Hulk is gone. Most of the Avengers are. We know who this bitch is. Let's just go after her family. I mean, come on. I mean, there are consequences to this. Tony Stark was a billionaire who had bodyguards. Steve Rogers had no one. Hulk was Hulk. Everyone else still kept their identity secret. We all saw the backlash of what happened with Spider-Man and the life that he put himself through and also what his aunt went through. But for this one, no consequences, not even holding your family hostage. All right, look, we got a friend that we need you to clear some charges of. Do that and we won't blow up your dang family. Seriously? I mean, come on. There are consequences to a secret identity. This is why superheroes don't do that. And the ones who do got nothing to live for. But yes, as I said, if they follow the comics, they could have done a day and night thing. During the day, she's still Jen Walters being the lawyer. And at night, she's She-Hulk and trying to, you know, clear some charges, beat some bad guys, and find evidence so she can present it the next day. This could also tie in more to what exactly superheroes have to sacrifice. Because she's still relatively young, looking for a man, she wouldn't have time for dates or her Tinder profile. Realizing that, hey, superheroes actually are giving up something, and that is a personal life, sacrificing for the great or good. Hey, Celtic, thanks. Velma canceled yet? I don't think so. Sadly, no. Hey, Celtic, thanks a lot. But sadly, I don't think Velma has been canceled yet. HBO is still pretty stubborn.
So the news on that, I think, is that that they order, like with animation, apparently it's pretty common to order 2 seasons. So the rumor is that that was pretty much guaranteed for 2 seasons, and they've already kind of paid for a lot of the assets. So the second season isn't that expensive, and they're just gonna plow ahead with it. Anyway, maybe they're just thinking they're gonna get some, you know, some rage clicks, some hate watching, or something they can try to salvage out of that dumpster fire. But you know, I think with She-Hulk, and thank you very much, Celtic. I think with She-Hulk, they could have done a lighthearted version of what we saw with the Dark Knight, where he had to balance that. Got to be Bruce Wayne during the day. Got to hide my bruises that I collect at night. I got to kind of live with no sleep. You know, we had that scene with him trying to get some sleep, and Alfred's waking him up like, hey, just because you're a crime fighter at night doesn't mean you're still not a businessman during the day. And she could have done that work-life balance thing. People love that with Batman. People love that with Spider-Man. And I think seeing that same type of story with her, with a little more of a cheeky tone, a little bit more of a, you know, a little more levity. Obviously, the fourth wall breaks and stuff, the meta humor. I think they could have pulled that off really well. But instead, Jessica Gao just decided that she was going to basically she stated in interviews that her whole goal was to troll the trolls. Like, she made this show to spite internet trolls, which is the weirdest motivation for making a $200 million production that I've ever heard of. But that's what she went with, and obviously it didn't work out. And I am a little sad that there will be less things to laugh at now. There's less laughter in the world because there's no more She-Hulk. But it does tell us a little bit that Disney is at least somewhat aware that you cannot just plow forward with unpopular properties and just expect the audience to go along. Like, I don't think they're all the way convinced yet. I don't think they're turned around all the way, but little things like this show me that somewhere in the company, somebody is looking at the books going, yeah, we can't sustain this. Like, this just isn't tenable. And that leads into our second little bit of news. There was a rumor going around that Disney's Rey movie was delayed indefinitely, and Lucasfilm came out apparently and confirmed not
Best news ever.
Yeah.
Oh man, why? Just there was so much potential with Rey, but why? Just why? The sequels could have worked, but this became the antithesis of what would Star Wars later become. The males are idiots. The females become very centric, and I get that. But here's the thing: in the old Star Wars comics, women were still badasses. Where the fuck was Mara Jade Skywalker, Luke's wife? There was no Rey. There was Jaina Solo, Leia and Han's daughter, who had to fight her own twin brother. Not not Ben Solo. I'm pretty sure it was like Jane or hang on. Let me take a look. But yeah, she had to fight her brother, and she was, pretty skilled. She had like black Sith lightning or black Force lightning, which is like, oh, that's cool. That'd be a cool visual to see. And she fought her brother, who was supposed to be, just as powerful as Vader, which is something that Luke feared in, this bullshit canon. But apparently, just no. What the heck happened?
Yeah, and I don't know why. And this is what I kind of hope that they learn something from the She-Hulk cancellation, and I want to believe that they're going to learn something from the Marvels and how bad that did, because they were kind of banking on the amount of money they made with Captain Marvel. They were like, look, we made a lot of money. People love the superhero. They really didn't. They just loved the Endgame saga, and they were kind of lied to believe that she was very important. And the Marvels really fell apart, showing that the audience, for I think multiple reasons, were just not into this. And so now you've got all this data that's kind of gathering up. And I think that's why it was so believable that when people said, yeah, they're going to delay this Star Wars Rey movie, a lot of people said, yeah, of course they are, especially after the introduction of the director for this Rey movie. Now, I know it's been covered a lot. I just think it's important to clear up, whenever there is kind of misinformation. There was clips floating around instantly of an interview with her talking about making men uncomfortable, and people pounced on. I immediately was like, oh my God, I fell for it right away, because I was like, yep, that sounds like what Kathleen Kennedy wants, sounds like what Disney wants. That was her talking about her documentaries that were exposing patriarchy and severe violent misogyny that happens in parts of Pakistan. So she was referring to like evil, abusive Pakistani men. I want to make them uncomfortable. So I think it's important to reiterate that. I know it's been said a lot, but then she did come out and say, it's time for a woman to shape Star Wars. And my immediate thought was, Kathleen Kennedy's been in charge since 2012. Like, she's been calling the shots for almost 12 years at this point. When has a woman not been shaping Star Wars? It did not Patty Jenkins make Rogue One? Did not multiple female directors do various episodes of all of the shows that they've been doing? So I don't really understand where she was coming from with that. And I think it turned a lot of people off. And I think that I still assume, even though the making men uncomfortable quote was taken out of context, my big fear is that her background is as an activist journalist. She is a documentary. It would be like if they got Michael, what's his name, from like the Bowling from Columbine, and somebody in the chat. I can't think of his last name. Fellow with the ball cap all the time. Somebody's got to help me out. Anyway, if it would be like him being put in charge of one of these entertainment properties. Like, I think that when you're an activist and you make documentaries for a living, if somebody, Michael Moore, that's what it was. If somebody told me Johnny Harris was going to take over one of these properties, I would be nervous, because the guy makes documentary YouTube videos. And I think that her activist mindset is going to come across into the movie. I just don't know that there's a way around that. And so, I didn't trust her. And I immediately latched on to this rumor that they were going to cancel this movie, but Lucasfilm is still going forward with it for now. We'll see where that goes. But I'm a little nervous for where they're going to take the Star Wars franchise. They don't seem to be doing very well. The viewer numbers for Ahsoka were not great. The viewer numbers for Mandalorian season 3 were not great. It's been more misses than hits. I know Andor is very popular. But I think it's been rough. Did you see the sequel trilogy?
The sequel trilogy to Star Wars?
Yeah,
the first two
The Rey
movies.
movies, the Force Awakens and the Last Jedi and the Last Sky or Rise of Skywalker. Did you catch those recently?
All right, so I did watch Force Awakens because I was a little bit starved for a new Star Wars movie, and it wasn't that bad. Like it was good because many people were trying to get the seemingly bad dialogue taste from the prequels out of their mouth, and updated visual effects. It was okay, but then they messed up when they got a different director who had no idea about a plan. And then J.J. Abrams came back for the third movie and had to pick up the pieces of what the absolute hell was going on. Oh, and by the way, Tabitha Chen, thank you. Jason Solo. Yeah, it was Jaina and Jason Solo facing each other. And let's see what else. What was I going to say?
Yeah, the fact that they didn't have a plan, that is really, I think, the most shocking part. Like right now, I am just about finished up with Avatar: Last Airbender. Don't know how I missed that
Great
one,
show. The
but I
best.
did. I missed it. My kids have been begging me. Commenters have been begging me. I'm finally about done with it. I'm like, what am I,
By the way,
halfway through? I'm halfway
can I
through the
say
third
something real quick?
season, but you can really tell. Obviously, there was a full plan for all three books. Like it was, they were dropping hints in the first book that we're now seeing come out in the third book. Clearly, there was a full story already written and broken into three parts, and it astounded me that this sequel trilogy, they were like, yeah, you do the first one, and then I don't know, you want to do the second one? You don't have to talk to the first guy, just make up your own story. Because it's like one of those art competitions where everybody draws for 5 minutes and then they switch, and then people just pick up the draw. Like that's what it felt like. And I cannot believe that a multi-billion-dollar franchise like Star Wars just kind of, they were winging it with a massive trilogy like this. So that is that's still going forward for now. We'll see where that goes. The other bit of Disney bad news is, I don't know if anybody knows this or not, but they are re-releasing some of the Pixar flops that either did not make it to theater or just did really poorly in theater. Like Turning Red, I think was in theater for a couple of weeks, but that was right in the beginning of the pandemic and everybody's freaking out. So it didn't do well. Soul, I believe, I don't even think it went to theaters at all. I think it went straight to Disney Plus. And so Disney is trying to re-release a few of their Pixar bombs. Soul was just this past weekend. I believe this spring they're going to re-release Turning Red. They're going to re-release Lightyear. And I believe they might be re-releasing Luca this year as well. But their first swing at this did not go well at all. Over the 3-day holiday weekend, they pulled in right at $500,000. Let me get in on that. Oh, there we go. And get this out
I
of the
actually
way.
kind of like Soul. Like I like the idea of there being a free life. Like you won't have any memories of it because you'll be a baby and all that, but it's essentially the formation of the soul's very identity, which is actually some pretty Studio Ghibli stuff, if I'm being serious. That I can see that working in a Studio Ghibli film, but with Pixar, I'm not entirely sure. But it was still a good concept. And that Soul that he was working on, like number 16 or whatever, if we go by the fact that maybe these souls are all numbered from how far back humanity has gone, like one of those 5 billion, trillion, quadrillion, and all that, and that was only 19. I think that was maybe supposed to be one of the earliest human souls ever. Maybe
Yeah.
she's supposed to be released during the biblical times. Maybe they were going to be released when Cain murdered his brother. You caused the flood. You showed that God that humans are evil. And judging by what that soul was like, who was supposedly an arsonist and an asshole to all the other souls like Marion Antoinette and everyone else, I probably would have believed it. But still, it was a good idea for a straight to streaming video, but not so much as a straight to theaters.
Have you seen the other ones they're going to re-release? Did you see Lightyear? Did you see Turning Red? Did you see Luca? Did you like any of those?
I mean, Luca was charming, but as for Lightyear, not really. So I instead just watched the classic Buzz Lightyear TV show, which is much better.
Mm-hmm.
And wasn't there like some environmental stuff going on, or
I think that's what
something about
everybody thought
colonization
it was
about
going to be.
Lightyear or something?
Yeah, well, Lightyear was. Are you talking about the Pixar movie?
Yes.
Yeah, it was like it was a time travel. They tried to do like an existential crisis for
Oh
Lightyear,
yeah, kids love that.
and then there was like a time travel thing, and the villain turned out to be him from the future because he's lost faith in humanity or something. It was a wreck, and
Eden Zero did that better.
they couldn't get Tim Allen. They didn't do Lightyear Space Command, which was the TV show. Yeah, it was not what anybody was expecting, and
Oh,
it
they
bothered.
needed Tim Allen for the Santa Claus. They couldn't afford him for the movie.
Yeah. So they're going to try again, and this first weekend is not looking good. And this might not even be up to them, because you have to remember that theaters have to agree to show your movie. And typically, Disney being Disney, they can usually say, "Hey, you're going to show our movie, right?" And pretty much every theater is going to say, "Yeah." But at a certain point, I think some of these theaters, especially on busier weekends, might say, even to a big company like Disney, I'm sorry, we just are not going to dedicate a theater to show a movie that 3 people are going to show up to see. Maybe that's a waste of our resources. Or maybe we'll do like a matinee, but we're not giving you prime time slots. We're not giving you an 8 o'clock showing on this stuff. We're going to give you 10 in the morning on a Saturday, and we'll show Turning Red. That's perfectly fine. But
Plus,
this
it's
is
already on streaming. Why even bother?
mhm.
That's
Well, and
the
that's another
that's a
interesting
big
thing, is
problem
I
right
don't
there.
think that they've actually removed it from streaming. So, yeah, why would I go pay ticket and popcorn prices for something I could quite literally see on my television?
That's kind of the big problem that Disney has had, because before streaming, if you want to get like a movie or something and you missed it in theaters, you got to wait like maybe 6 months or two for it to be out on DVD. In which case, that would come as like a great Christmas present for like a little kid who wanted to see the movie again, or it was on like pay-per-view with cable. But now that it does have on streaming, people just aren't going to watch it in theaters if it's going to be out on streaming like 2 weeks after opening day. You're kind of just shooting yourself in the foot right there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and that's been a big issue for them. I think that they have set the tone with that much too early. Like, if they had from the beginning, early on, just said like, it's going to be 6 months, 9 months, guys, we're not doing this stuff. But for some of these movies, it's 3 months, and I think for a lot of people, they're doing exactly what you're talking about. They're just saying, well, I'm okay, I'm patient, I can wait a few months, and even if they do the early access thing where you got to pay 20 or 25 bucks to access it a month early or something. Like, I think they did that with Black Widow. They've done that with a couple of movies. That's perfectly fine. I have 6 kids, so it cost me $200 to go to the theater and get popcorn and sodas and everything and tickets for everybody. 25 bucks is a steal as far as I'm concerned, and we can watch it multiple times. We can pause it when somebody has to go to the bathroom. Like, the convenience of streaming outweighs the theatrical experience, especially with some of these Pixar movies. Now, there are certain movies that I would argue, like, I'm going to go see Dune 2 in the theater. That is a theater movie, in my opinion. That's an IMAX movie as far as I'm concerned. Like, that's a big deal, and you're going to lose a lot with that one when you watch it at home. But Raya and the Last Dragon, we rented. We didn't go see that in theaters. Um, I really wish I would have waited on Wish. Honestly, if I wasn't making videos, I wouldn't have seen that in theaters. I would have waited for that to come to streaming. Nobody was excited about that one. And so I think that they're, especially Disney Animation and Pixar, are not making movies that you feel like, if I don't see this in theater, I'm going to miss out on something. And you know what? I can wait 4 months for them to put it on Disney Plus. So I'll just wait. And then the box office suffers for it. And they really only have themselves to blame for that.
Hey, Tabitha, I'm reading your comment now about the whole Ghibli thing. And yeah, if you're making a movie, make it something that is meant for theaters, because you have all of the surround sounds. You also have, the feeling, the vibrations. You have the big screen. Wow. If you're going to make a movie for the theaters, make it as wonderful as you can, because if it's great and you do release it back on in theaters, people will still want to see it, to get that feel and adrenaline rush of experiencing it again like you did the first time. That's what Disney's missing, because Soul and the others, sadly, are only good for just straight to streaming. This is the equivalent of those old straight to VHS movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. All right, so we'll move on to
Oh, by the way, Tabitha, comment down below. Have you seen The Boy and the Heron?
I have not yet. I didn't go to theaters for that one. To be honest, I have not seen a single how do you pronounce it? Because I feel like I'm going to pronounce this wrong. I just discovered the other day that I'm pronouncing biopic wrong, and that's been a real revelation for me. That kind of shook me. Is it Ghibli? Studio Ghibli?
Yeah, Studio Ghibli. Biopics are more like historical films about more recent artists. Like I remember watching the one with Queen, like about the Freddie Mercury. My mom loves that movie. It's a pretty good one. But yeah, I think it's biopic.
Yeah, apparently the consensus on the poll that I put up was either biopic or biopic, but I was saying biopic, and I guess I'm in the minority on
I think
that
that's
one.
a different term of phrase.
I'm in the Midwest here, so I am interested in watching some Studio Ghibli stuff. I think I might make a point of that this year and maybe do some hey, I'm late to the party reviews because they look amazing, and I've never heard anybody talk about the studio and Miyazaki and say it's okay. Like I've never even heard that level. It's glowing. It's must see. Every single person that talks about it. So I'm pretty
If you want a
excited about that.
kid-friendly one, try Ponyo because it's like the Japanese version of The Little Mermaid, but it has a lot more twists. It's a bit more modern, but it's still fun and cute.
Yeah.
Because the Miyazaki films, like even the classic Spirited Away, is dark. It's a little dark and scary. It's like those old 1990s or 1980s Disney films where they would add scary imagery. But overall, it is still great. Ghibli is the Disney of Japan, and they have produced so many classics. If you watch like Doug Walker's review with us on Nostalgia Critic with Studio Ghibli and whatever happened, all the movies that he made, he could probably give you a better ranking because some of them are pretty imaginative and others are just safe and cute, like Kiki's Delivery Service. I believe that's a pretty safe one. But The Boy and the Heron is the most recent one, and it is just blowing up. Let me tell you, Japan really dominated in the winter, while Barbenheimer was taking over the summer. We had flops from the West here, but over from the East, it was really dominating with Godzilla -1 and surprisingly, The Boy and the Heron, an animated film, which some people would think that it's too childish.
That argument drives me crazy.
Animation is a tool. It depends on who's using it. Like it's the same thing with a gun. Like sometimes guns are marketed to kids, but they're the safe ones, which is what kid animation is. But if you get the real ones, then they're dangerous and can be violent and maybe even sexy, depending on how you use it. But still, it depends on who is using it. It's an artist and a canvas. You can draw something safe, you can draw something artistic, you can draw something silly, or something serious. It is not just for kids, and I am tired of people just using that.
Yeah, I
Show
completely
them
agree.
Chainsaw Man. Show them Chainsaw Man and make them rethink their decision. Still think it's for kids? Huh? Tell me.
Hey, there's a lot of Rule 34 that's not for kids and it's animated. Now, if you guys join us in a couple of weeks, so like I said earlier, this week we're talking about more Disney stuff. We're going to be talking about Percy Jackson in just a minute here, but in 2 weeks, Dante's
Thomas,
come back.
Totoro is just kind of all right. It's good, but nothing too groundbreaking.
In 2 weeks, Dante is going to come back, and by then, I have committed to actually making good on my promises from last year. I'm going to watch some anime. So I'm going to watch the first season of Violet Evergarden and the first season of Demon Slayer because I can get those both on Netflix. I'm not going to sign up for Crunchyroll at the moment. So I'm going to watch both of those. I've got this copy of My Hero Academia Volume 1. I'm going to try to read through that. And we're going to have more conversations in a couple of weeks about anime, me as a newbie and him as more experienced, and manga, obviously, with the single volume that I will have read at that point. And then also like the live action adaptations, especially leading into the Last Airbender adaptation that's coming up. But right now, what's really big as far as...
Let me tell you something real quick about My Hero Academia. You
yeah.
Old Disney Channel movie Sky High? where like teens of parent, where like the teens of
I think
superheroes
my
go to a high
kids
school to
watched it.
learn their
I did
powers.
not sit around and watch that one with them, but I think I
Damn it.
know what you're talking about.
Anyway, it's like that. It's kind of like that, but there's actually going to be more story to it.
I'm excited about it.
Oh yeah, it's a good premise, and
but
it's doing a lot better than Marvel and DC now, sadly. Although
my book is broken though; it's printed backwards, so I don't know. That must have been a printing error on that one.
No. That's how manga works. It's you're supposed to read it from right to left, not left to right.
You know what's really interesting about how well it's doing? Like I was going to do a video about like comic industry and stuff, but it's impossible to find, and I think they do this on purpose. It's impossible to find any data that separates American books from Eastern books.
Oh, geez, I
think they like that because they point to the numbers and they're like, we're selling more books in the last couple of years than ever. Like the comic industry is doing incredible, and it's like, yeah, because you're being filled in from Eastern entertainment. Nobody's buying Western comics anymore. They're buying manga. They're buying, they're getting anime box sets. That's the stuff that people are buying, and that's what's boosting those numbers up. It's a complete Japan and Korean takeover.
K-pop and J-pop are rocking and rolling.
Yeah, I like K-pop.
That's why I got into this.
I'm 38-year-old man. I like K-pop. I don't give a shit. It's. I mean, they're bops. So
hey, I was at Fan Expo a couple of weeks ago during the first weekend of January. I saw an 80-year-old man doing caramel dancing. You guys remember that song?
I do not remember.
Hang on, is there a way I can like share something? Is there a way I can like share my screen?
Yeah.
Hang on, let me pull it up real quick.
So long as you don't show something that's going to get me, in trouble with YouTube.
No, don't worry. This is safe.
So I'm kind of excited. I'm excited about. So there is a regular commenter. I believe Jeremiah is his name, and he recommended several animes to me because I've been talking about this for a long time, and I just keep not making it a priority. I just need to get at it. And one reason I chose those two, like I said, first of all, they're on Netflix, so I already have that subscription. But I know Violet is it's more of a drama, and I know it's more serious. It's kind of somber and sad. And then obviously Demon Hunter or Demon Slayer is more of an action. Dante tells me that is a shonen, I think is what he said, like the more just straight up action, just for the guys kind of thing. So I kind of want to get a little bit of both of those. Like I want to get different genres, not just full on action type things. Let me.
All right, I got it.
Here you go. You're on.
Doing this when it was announced.
That's your dance?
Hey, it's a cute song.
It is.
Rocked in the early 2000s. One Piece Man and caramel dancing.
Hey, I love that. I mean,
hey, show it to your kid.
That live action was outstanding.
You guys remember this song? God, I'm old.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna start dancing. So, one of the big things that is going on right now with Disney is Percy Jackson. And we were setting this stream up, and Dante asked me, have you read the books? And I said, no, I've not read the books. My kids are in love with it. Like 3 of my kids are mowing through Riordan's stuff right now. My son is reading
novels.
My son's reading this, I don't know what series about the Roman pantheon.
Oh, that's the Heroes of Olympus. That's the sequel series.
Yeah, so they started on the original. They moved on to Heroes Olympus. I think he's got another series that I don't think is connected to Percy at all. I think it's called Cain. Is that?
Oh yeah, the Cain Chronicles. That's more of an Egyptian theme. There's also the Magnus Chase one, which is more Nordic. The Cain and the Magnus Chase are trilogy, so there's only 3 books, sadly. The main one is mostly just the Greco-Romans.
So I knew we were going to talk about it, and I had watched a few episodes with my kids, and I knew nothing about it. And before I read the book, which I did this week just to be ready for this stream, I liked it. As someone who had zero experience other than just hearing my kids talk about it, I didn't know anything about this other than the movie from a few years ago. So I kind of understood the basic plot line. But I went in kind of cold. I watched the first few episodes and I enjoyed it. I thought as a casual viewer, I felt like I understand what was going on. There were a few critiques that I had, mostly just the fact that they use child actors to play 12-year-olds, which is, I think, a normal thing to do. But I think that's an inherent weakness of this genre of books. The first couple of Harry Potter books were the same way. They had to use child actors. And if you go back and watch that first Harry Potter movie, those kids suck. And that's just, that is what you have to accept when you're using kids that age. And
yeah, that's kind of why Christopher Columbus wanted to work with teens when he did the movies with Fox the first time. He was tired of child actors, but that got some backlash from the loyal fans pointing out inaccuracies with the movie.
Yeah. So,
one of them had to be Annabelle.
I understand that they went with the child actors on this one, and there was some controversy because Annabelle, they cast a black girl for it, and they said, hey, she's the greatest actor, and I've warmed up to her because I watched the first 6 episodes. I'm all caught up at this point, and I've warmed up to her. But when the season dropped, and it was just that first 2 episodes, and she only appears in the latter half of the second episode, I thought, holy crap, even for a child actor, this kid can't act. Like the line delivery, the lines they gave her to deliver were absolutely horrific. But what I wanted to talk to you about, Dante, was I read the book this week. I've watched all 6 episodes, so I feel like I'm all caught up. I feel like I was watching and listening at the same time, on and off. So I'm almost certain that I'm going to remember seeing something in the show that didn't actually happen because I was listening to the book. That was, now in retrospect, that was the worst decision I could have made. But what were some of there were obviously a lot of changes, and I'm interested in because you said you're a big fan of the series, and you just mentioned you've read all Raritan stuff. I'm interested to hear what you think about these changes, because there were a lot of changes in the show from the books, and some of them I think just didn't really even need to happen. You said you had a list. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so from a story perspective, or at least from a series perspective, the pacing sucks. I mean, it is just too fast, and a lot of the lines turn out to be more of a exposition dump. Like I've seen the mythology guy go over this, but he does like a compare and contrast with the books. Percy is figuring out things by himself. Like when he meets Mr. D, he figures out, Leopard Prince, this guy's holding wine. His name is Mr. D. He's remembering the lessons from his teacher and possibly from his mom. He's going, wait a minute, you're Dionysus? The same thing happened with Ares. He just rolled in on the diner and then he figured it out when he mentioned Clarice. But now it's more of a fast, quick exposition dump going from, hey, look, Percy, there's Medusa, there's the Minotaur, and that's Dionysus. Well, can we just take everything in? No, we only got 8 episodes. That's the biggest flaw, is that we're not allowed to actually take time and, just enjoy it. We waited a long time for this series because 2 failed movies, a long break, only the graphic novels, and a musical. Yes, there is a Percy Jackson musical. Give it a look. The songs are actually pretty good. Anyway, back to it. That's one big issue. Is that the pacing sucks. Maybe the next one they could do 2 more episodes and we can focus a little bit more on some things that the show really wanted to do. And that was, diverse characters, which is what, Annabeth was supposed to be according to one article. But here's the thing. There are other characters who are diverse. Selena Beauregard, hang on, I'm trying to remember. Chris Rodriguez, Selena Beauregard, Charles Beckendorf. These are characters who are get introduced later, but they could have introduced them early, like when Percy was going through training in episode 2. Why not introduce different cabin leaders, the counselors, to Percy to see who his parent was. Maybe each one could have been like a test. We had Katie Gardner with the Demeter cabin. We could have had Charles Beckendorf with the Festus one. Selena Beauregard with Aphrodite, because I think in the books there was like a little joke about maybe Aphrodite was the parent because of they were trying to put out like Percy's looks. Like, aren't we supposed to be focusing on the male gods? Hey, you never know with these guys. That was the joke.
Right.
So like one with the Hermes cabin, and Percy was supposed to raise like a tree nymph, and he lost. Luke said jokingly, "You do realize coming in second with a nymph is like losing to a tree, right?" It's moments like that. We didn't get much of a chance to actually, have Percy and Luke bond, and because everything is just too rushed. Okay, what else?
It's interesting they rushed it because the book itself is not that long. So it's not as though they were trying to cram a tome of a book into an 8 episode deal. And also a lot of these episodes are short. So that to me feels weird. It's not as though they were 1 hour episodes and they were like, look, we don't want to go above 1 hour. We don't want to go above 8 episodes, because 8 episodes, 1 hour seems to be like this weird unspoken limit for all of these streaming shows. But some of these episodes are 35, 40 minutes.
They
At
only
most,
say
they're
it's 40,
45
but
or 50 minutes.
they
And so
only
I don't
say 40
understand why they
because
wouldn't
the
want to
end
put
credits
more
are
time into each
7
episode.
minutes.
What's that?
They say they're 40 minutes, but that's only because like the end credits are only like 7 minutes, and the
Yeah.
previews
Well,
for the
and,
next
and then
one.
you've got the recap and all of that.
Okay, so there is a little bit more that I wanted to make. Let's see what else. They cut some weird stuff out, like I said previously. One of them was the Hellhound. And it might be small, but here's the point. The Hellhound was an indication that something or someone summoned it from Hades, which
Yes.
because there's the whole camp border preventing monsters from entering. This
Yes.
gave the indication that there was someone inside the camp who summoned it. And the Hellhound is, from the underworld. Someone had to have summoned it from the underworld. And this led to an indication that maybe Hades was the one who stole the boat, because he was forced into a pact that neither of his brothers hold to. Zeus had a kid named Talia who got turned into a tree. Poseidon had Percy. And Hades was forced into an oath that neither of his brothers were able to keep. And so they think that if he stole the bolts, this would lead to an all-out war with Olympus, because he doesn't have the greatest connection with his family. He's like the black sheep. I mean, the black sheep is technically one of his sacred animals, but you get the joke.
Yeah.
That this leads to the suspicion that Hades was the one who stole the bolts, because the Hellhound just further emphasizes it. But instead, the Hellhound got cut, and Annabeth just pushed him into the lake, just rather rudely, to test a theory. But
Yeah.
the Hellhound
Well,
is still relatively important, because now we have Grover, who thinks that it was Hades who kidnapped Percy's mom, which, yeah, he kind of did, but it wasn't for that. And how does Grover know? He's a satyr. How does
yeah.
he know about death?
Yeah, I do think they kind of did a little bit of exposition with that stuff. And that is a complaint that my oldest daughter brought up. I was talking to the kids about it. What did you guys like? What you didn't like about the changes and everything? And that was my oldest daughter's complaint, was the show just seems to have a lot of exposition. A lot of things are just straight up explained. And I think that to a certain extent, some of that has to be there, because they're trying to explain how this invisible Greek world fits over the top of the world that we see. And so there are certain things where, Chiron has to explain how, the heart of the West moves around, and there's no way to show that. And there has to be exposition, but they have kind of a nice built-in mechanism for that, because Percy is ignorant, and he can always just be dumb, and other characters can explain things to him, which is a fine thing to do. But I do agree that with some of it, they didn't need to come out and tell you, hey, this goes deeper. Man, there's just got to be more at play here than just Hades wanting this. Like, yes, clearly. And I think you're absolutely right that by not having the Hellhound, by not focusing on the fact that there's obviously a traitor inside the camp somewhere, otherwise it's impossible to summon a monster in. It has to be from the inside. By dropping those hints, they could have let the viewer kind of figure out that they're being led along without having to just come out and say it. I think it was in the 5th episode or something. The three are walking, they're walking along on the road, and Percy's like, I think there's a whole lot more going on here. And then he's like, oh, wait, you guys already figured that out, huh? And like, yeah, we totally did. And I just felt like that was an unnecessary bit of him basically just saying that to the camera, saying, hey, audience, there's more here than you think. Like, we're not.
Sorry, kid, you're not Ryan Reynolds. You may have worked with Ryan Reynolds, but you're not him. Only he can break the fourth wall very nicely. Now, I want to talk to you about Annabeth too. Like, yeah, when I saw her in episode 2 during the premiere, I figured, oh my gosh, she's going the Carol Danvers route. Why?
Yeah, they did.
I
They did make her a little bossy.
So many live action women do this, especially after Star Wars, Ahsoka. I'm like, no, what is with Disney and doing this? Annabeth is supposed to be like a daughter of Loki. She is mischievous. You know how she got on the quest? She was wearing her invisibility cap and eavesdropping. She basically just forced her way in. And when she was coming up with a plan to test Percy against Clarice, when he was mouthing her and saying, you could have gotten me killed, she just replies, yeah, Mom would be so proud of me, with a smirk. Like, come on, she's mischievous. She's also an architectural nerd. She is the equivalent of an otaku for architecture. And I'm just not seeing that with this kid. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. It's clear that there is chemistry, but the director or whoever's doing this clearly doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, or maybe hasn't even read the source material. Rick, what are you doing, man? This is not Annabeth. And I do not mean the physical appearance. Okay, that's another thing that I'm sure many people are wondering. How did many people react to the, announcement that Annabeth was going to be played by an African-American girl? I had mixed reactions. One, because, hey, if you're looking for an actor, you definitely want to get the best that you can, regardless of, those check boxes, black, gay. No, it shouldn't matter. Whoever is doing the job. But this is a book adaptation. And when you use the term for a modern audience, that's poison, buddy. We all know, especially from Disney, what that means. And we were concerned. And I was, the way that some fans were bullying Leia, and I was like, no, guys, stop it. Why are you doing this? We're supposed to be the responsible ones. Don't bully a child.
Yeah.
But I waited, and over time, Leia as Annabeth is slowly starting to be a little bit more like the book self, but I still would like a little bit more of, book Annabeth in her. Make her more mischievous. Make her more, fun. She might be a little bit of the straight woman in this job, but she's still fun and mischievous. She's still a kid. And that's something that the latest episode failed at.
I agree with you. I'm with you. She kind of is growing on me as the series is going on, and they are trying to explore like her emotional conflict of, I want to go on a quest. That's been my thing that I want to do the whole time, and I want to believe that I'm the one that has the plan because I'm Athena's daughter and all that. But I think in that second episode, they went too hard on it, and they crossed over to just kind of mean and bossy instead of the person with the plan. It looked like what a child thinks a serious, intimidating adult sounds like. That's how she played it, and I have to blame the director for that, because again, you're dealing with a child actor. You kind of have to really be hands-on with them to tell them exactly how you want the lines delivered. And I think that they encouraged her to play that one really much too stoic, much too aloof, much too bossy.
It's just
but as things have gone on, the episodes have gone on, it seems like they're trying to, maybe they almost did that on purpose, because they kind of want to soften that a little bit and show her warming up to Percy, show that she doesn't always have the right answer and they have to have each other's backs. In this latest episode, or maybe the 5th episode, where they're in the tunnel of love and they're drowning and he saves her, and they kind of have to decide who's going to be the one to sit in the chair and all that kind of stuff. They sort of are displaying a little bit of the hard facade that she has put up, but that's her on purpose, and there's a little bit more going on, I think, is what they're trying to get across.
But we're starting to get more book Percy, because the blonde hair was definitely something to get used to. But I am starting to see what Walker is doing with Percy, and yes, the way he faced Echidna, the way that he sacrificed himself, that is Percy, the
Hmm.
kid who just wants to do good things, not the brooding, angsty, I hate my dad Perseus that we got from the 2010 Clash of the Titans. By the way, speaking of that movie, Medusa in this, her design, lame. I mean,
So
good freaking God. Just having the eyelids and the snake hair, that is the bare freaking minimum for a Medusa. Does having bull horns and wearing like a cow print thong make you the Minotaur? No.
apparently
You know
wearing
what I mean?
tiny
Come
whities
on.
makes you a
We,
minotaur.
we get to see other cool monsters. I mean, the Chimera. Now, that was an excellent fusion of reptile and mammal. Having, the lion body, but also the reptilian scale. And
Hmm.
I think they missed out on the snake tail. They just gave it like a manticore scorpion tail. They also had those flaps that are supposed to be like a mane because the Chimera is supposed to be either male or female, depending. So switching on and off is a good way of switching it. But come on, Medusa, make her hideous or make her more reptilian. The 2010 Clash of the Titans did a lot more. They gave her the snake hair, okay, but they also gave her a elongated snake tail for the lower half of the body. And when she
Hmm.
turned people to stone, it wasn't just glowing eyes, it was also a beautiful face. And then when she does the old high trick, it's a hideous maw and face. It's like seeing an angel until being realized you were tricked by a demon. That is a great depiction of Medusa. And Medusa in the books is supposed to be like an old woman or a little old elderly woman.
Yeah.
She's supposed to also have like brass talons and leathery skin. I think she
Yes.
also is supposed to have like stretch marks because apparently she was pregnant with Chrysaor and Pegasus until the actual Perseus sliced off her head. Maybe she could have like more skin. Even Echidna, like the mother of monsters, and she's just a Karen. She just looks like an average Karen, and they
Yeah.
couldn't even
I
give
was
her
just
like
uh, I was just reading the
Echidna's
books,
supposed
and
to
I know they
also
described
be.
her as having like scales on her arms and stuff. And I would have liked to have seen maybe some small hints of, maybe she wears a scarf, and as she adjusts it, you see something, some gills or something under there, or she pulls her sleeve up, and in the book that was how it went down, as she rolled her sleeve up, and there were scales underneath. I'm with you. I would have liked to have seen some monstrosity details on her, but I'm wondering how you felt about the direction they went with Medusa, where instead of just being, I'm going to feed you some food, make you sleepy, and then boom, turn you into a statue, they tried to do kind of a sympathetic thing. And it seems like they're in the show, it seems like they're trying to really play up the angle of, are the gods as good as you think they are? She plays up the sympathy to Annabeth in the show. Like, are you, I'm the victim. Poseidon seduced me, and she didn't attack a fellow god, she attacked a mortal. Like, I didn't do anything wrong. It's the gods that are really, they just play with us, and they curse us whenever they want. And I think it's come up in other parts where they're trying to make the gods seem like they're really not that great, and they're trying to put that doubt in the kids' minds, which was really not a strong theme in the book. So what do you think about that angle with Medusa, her trying to make a deal, her trying to be sympathetic? Do you like the way that they made that change?
Well, there's a couple of ways of intercepting the whole who's really telling the story angle because Annabeth thinks that she was cursed, so she did something wrong, while you also have Medusa saying that it was a gift or something like that. There are different versions of Medusa's story. The oldest being that she is a daughter of Ceto and her husband, Orpheus. Yeah, but there's like these like ocean dangers of the ocean type gods. They're supposed to be like monster sea gods. And Medusa and her siblings were just a pair of triplets who were always monsters. But then later on, you also have Medusa being like, I don't know, there's one version where they're still their kids, and yet she was like born the most beautiful. I think it's a
Mhm.
reverse of Festus. Like every now and then you have like an ugly one in a group full of normal looking or beautiful kids. So in a family full of ugly looking kids, you got a couple that are going to be beautiful. I think it's like that, which I don't know, kind of messed up but funny. Anyway, there's that. She also becomes a priestess of Athena, and the same thing. If you break your vow of not being a being a virgin, yeah, it's over for you. And in that one, Medusa was seduced, and it was a consensual relationship, but she still broke her vow in Athena's own temple, mind you. So yeah, Athena kind of got a little grumpy and cursed her. So that's one story that I think Annabeth is doing, or I'm trying to remember, but it's very confusing. But then you got the other one where it was a violent assault from Poseidon, and Medusa was turned to that because Athena felt bad and wanted to make sure that no men would do that again to her, because why would they do that if they're such an ugly face? It's
Right.
really more about who's telling the story, which is a weird twist. John Solo recently released a video on this very discussion, and I read a comment that said, and I quote, "The whole thing of Medusa saying it was a gift sounds more like a coping mechanism to me. She definitely can't deal with the idea of her being punished anymore. Therefore, she's rationalizing in order to keep her sanity," which honestly, that does sound pretty. That sounds pretty messed up, but maybe on the nose. Like, you're trying to cope with the fact that you ruined your own life, or maybe someone ruined your life. You can't. It's probably a sign that you're going crazy.
Yeah. So are you so I mean do you like that more in-depth kind of relationship between the mortals and the gods that they're introducing in the show, or are you more of a purist with your book adaptations that you want to just tell the story, tell Rick's story and leave your interpretation out of it? As a director, you just need to, it's not you're telling Rick's. Where do you fall on that?
Well, for one thing, Rick Riordan is actually working on set with it, and so many of the changes that are being made, he has to, approve upon and kind of get final say. And I get where he's going for. If you made a story so long ago and you want to do maybe something of a reboot, because when we were young and you're your first writing, you probably made a few mistakes, and you kind of want to rectify it. Again, the whole modern audience thing. Good God, no. But you also still want to, adapt the book as it did, because there's a reason why people love these books. They love the story. Changing it might be a not too great idea, because it might lead to good results or bad results. I'm always a little bit of an optimist. I always want to see if there is a good story.
Yep.
And when it comes down to Percy Jackson, at least we still have the original books. We also have the graphic novels, which is a lot more faithful, even if there are parts that were cut. But hey, then again, the show also had to make a bunch of cuts.
So, what are your thoughts about introducing an entirely new scene here in the most recent episode? We are at the Lotus Casino, and we have an entire new section where Hades or Hermes is at the casino, and they meet him, and he kind of does this feeling sorry for myself. I don't want to get involved. I screwed things up with my son, kind of a thing. How did you feel about that change?
I feel like they're introducing Luke's whole hatred for his dad a little too soon, because that's not introduced until like the fifth book. But there is a more recent reason why Hermes and Luke have such a complicated relationship. Along with that, is that Hermes also sent his son Luke out to get a golden apple from Hesperides. Luke
Yep.
was pissed off that it was actually something that Hercules did already, so it feels more like a repeat of a old cliche trope. He was
Yep.
mad, he failed, and that scar you see on his eye, that's from that quest. A reminder that the gods just maybe care, but it's weird that they're sending their own kids out. I feel like maybe they could have focused more on that and not about the mother. What else? Let me just say, the Lotus Casino. Oh my God, the movie did it better. I hate to say it, but the movie did the Lotus Casino plot better for the most part. Okay, so when they were there in the book, they weren't going there just because Hermes was there. They just ran into it by accident when they were trying to escape from the
Yes.
zoo van while the animals escaped. And they just went there mistakenly by chance, and they needed a break to lay low for a bit. And while doing so, they just get lost in the fun, the games, the rides, the food. and the lotus flowers were like infinite amounts of like cash cards, which would always make people want to keep continuing and playing without realizing how much time went by.
Yeah.
Well, in the show, it's all like the lotus is in the air, which is, I
Yeah.
guess,
That
like
was
that.
real weird.
But here's the thing that the movie did better. The lotus flowers could easily be something that's like akin to like drugs or an alcohol. It alters their mind, showing them that they want to keep continuing to party, gamble, and have fun, not noticing that days have passed on.
Yeah.
I think the whole time bit thing is the fact that casinos don't have clocks or windows,
Yeah.
so people don't know how much time has passed, which is also a pretty good commentary on gambling addiction and drug addiction.
Mhm. Well, and in this episode, one thing that
But
kind of bothered me was it made Hermes look bad because he knows that time passes differently here, and it almost makes him look like he's holding them there on purpose to make them fail. Because at
yeah,
the
I
end
did
of their
not like this
conversation,
episode.
he's like, "Oh, yeah, I got bad news for you," and then they do the whole like, "Hey, we've been here for several days," and it makes him look like he's purposely trying to trip them up, which I think is a weird mischaracterization of him.
A couple of other things I wanted to point out. The only reason how Percy knew that they were being trapped, not because they noticed that it was a Lotus Casino or at least the Lotus Eaters, but because Percy was starting to notice people from different time periods and eras in their own clothing.
Yes.
Time is practically standing still. When you enter, you are ageless, but you still don't know about it. He was seeing people wearing clothes from the 70s, the 40s, and all sorts of time periods.
Yeah.
Hell, this even happened in the movie when you realized that a guy playing ping pong was there from the 70s.
Yep.
And he did not notice until then, and then he figured it out. That's something that's a big weakness with the plot exposition and the pacing, is that he's not figuring it out by himself, showing a good head on his shoulders.
Yeah.
And about Grover with the animals, I get what he was doing, but was it really wise letting like a bear, a camel, and all bunch of circus animals let loose in Vegas and telling them they'll get to the wilds? What wilds? They're in Vegas. They're in a desert. You're
You
trying to
know,
tell a bear to make it to the wilds in a desert?
one issue I feel like they included that scene, but they didn't really include it fully enough, like him taking care of the animals in the truck. They I don't feel that like I don't feel Grover has a lot of character in the show, and one of his big defining traits in that
I
first
feel
book
bad for him.
is that he's a lover of nature and he's kind of angry with humanity
Oh
for
yeah,
ruining nature. And they had a little bit of a reference to it when they were in the museum under the arch, and he's kind of disgusted with, the hunting apparel and the fact that buffaloes are being hunted, and he's like really disgusted with all of that. It was a pretty quick little thing, but you did get the impression that he's a naturalist. He hates nature being abused. But I felt like that scene in the book with him taking care of the animals, speaking to the animals, it really showed where his priorities were at. And in the show, it just felt like a weird joke that, hey, we're gonna let these in. He's like, oh, they're super smart, and then they're just stuck in traffic. And it failed to characterize him in any way. It just felt like a goofy gag that they threw in. What would you I mean, do you think that they should have just cut it entirely or done it differently? How do you feel about him as a character?
I kind of feel bad for Grover in this because not only is he the third wheel while Percy and Annabeth are taking, center stage, but a lot of the times when Grover's on, they're either telling him to shut up or they're even telling him to get lost. Like when he was being introduced at Camp Half Blood, Dionysus and Chiron were telling him to shut up and leave. Even the horse, the Pegasus, was telling him to shut up about his own dietary thing. I feel
Yeah.
bad for this kid, but here and there he does have his time to shine, like when he was with Ares. You know those wars he was talking about? Those were wars involving nature. The 300 one was about a territory dispute between France and a couple of other empires somewhere in the New World. There was a territory dispute, but there was also no way that the treaties were being made. Then you also have wars about lumber, and you also have wars about crawfish and like sea life. The lobster wars, I think, because those tie in with nature, which I think is smart in a way that you can connect Grover with Ares and how they could bond over it.
Yeah. I did not know that.
What else? I'm trying
So
to thing.
What do you think about, and I know somebody mentioned they haven't seen the sixth episode, but I think everybody's most folks have read the books at least. What are your thoughts on the implications of the 4 pearls being given to Percy instead of 3? Because I've got very serious doubts about how they're going to go forward, and I feel like they're going to kick Percy's legs out from under him again with a real character defining moment. I'm worried what they're going to do. What are your predictions for the 4 pearls instead of 3? Because I feel like that's a big, big change, bigger than just it's an extra pearl. Like, I think that could have very, very serious story effects.
Again, I'm kind of reminded of Doug Walker's from Nostalgia Critics when when everyone realized that he had 3 pearls instead of 4 when they finally rescued Percy's mom, and he jokingly said, "Clearly, math was not taught at demigod camp." But as for the pearls, I was on the Discord, and one commenter said that there might be a theory as to one of those pearls is going to get lost. When you see the previews, you see Annabeth climbing, and maybe Percy gave each one a pearl. He kept on the 2 for himself and his mom, just in case. But we also have an upcoming scene involving Grover and those flying shoes. You know, that thing that Luke gave that apparently this plot forgot about.
Yeah.
And even if you know the book, you know what's going to happen. My guess is that Grover might lose his pearl then, leaving them to just 3. So there's going to be a group discussion about who has to stay behind, making the sacrifice.
Yeah.
Who is going to do it? Is it Percy? Is he going to stay behind for his mom? It's discussions like that that will define and kind of tighten their new friendship. Because let me tell you, when this first started at around episode 3, and he's saying, "I picked a good bunch of friends," they're like, "I yelled at my TV." How? There was like no chemistry at all.
Yeah.
Not even with Grover, your friend, who snitched you out at the school.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Who
why they
snitched you
made
out
that
to
change.
Professor Riordan. By the way,
That
if you
was
watch
something
episode
that I
1
was a
again,
little confused
Rick
about. Why would you
Riordan
make Grover the
actually
bad
the
guy
same.
in the beginning?
If you actually watch episode 1 again, you can actually see Rick Riordan in that whole like Percy is getting called out for pushing Nancy in the fountain. He was actually in the side in the wheelchair. That was actually him. It was like, oh my god, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't I'm not sure why they did that with Grover. I guess, like I said, I was talking to my kids, and their theory is, maybe they were trying to make him look like he's courageous and would make sacrifices, but I don't think it works really well because he looks like he just stabbed Percy in the back. Like, I understand he did it to get him kicked out to save him, but it makes him look very, very bad. Whereas we're going to see in the next episode or the last episode where he's going to offer to stay behind in Tartarus, that already is written into the book. So I don't really see why we needed to add those things. But they actually did have one idea that the 4 pearls were a way to indicate that Percy's dad does actually care about him. Because I guess when you think about it in the books, his dad, I think, knows that his mom is in the underworld and is like, "Here's 3 pearls for you and your 2 friends," which, when you think about it, is kind of crappy because he knows that this woman is trapped in Tartarus, or in the underworld. And by offering the 4 pearls, I think the show is making Poseidon look a little better because he's like, "Here you go. I'm going to get you and your friends and your mom out." And I think you're right. They'll lose the pearl, which I think is going to create some false drama. But I think they're doing that to make Poseidon look better than he did in the books at that moment. So I think that was kind of a cool angle.
Plus, I also liked the St. Louis Arch when the water saved Percy and not Grover, because apparently Rick did not know that the water was not running under the arch at the time, so he just assumed that Percy was just going to fall in the river, but he was not. He was just going to land straight on concrete. So it was nice seeing the water from Poseidon saving him. That was a little dark joke, but still a nice little gesture.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks think that it bridges across the river, and it does not.
Yeah, I thought that too. It was going like, wait, really? But then no.
Yeah,
which is all the more terrifying when you realize that Book Annabeth would have wanted like a sturdy glass underbelly, like under it, like a boardwalk that you have at the Grand Canyon. That would be terrifying. Like, come on, what if the glass breaks? Then you got a whole bunch of people falling to their deaths on the concrete.
Yeah.
But for my review overall of the series, it had a slow start. It didn't have the right hook. And that is a big issue. If you can't hook your audience within the first few episodes, you're going to lose them because they're not going to continue watching it weekly. It'll be another series that, and I'm just going to get to it when I get to it because it didn't have a good impression in the first one. My suggestions for a season 2 is if they learn from these mistakes, here's what they needed to do. Make it actually 40 minutes of actual footage screen time, not the recap, not the end credits and the previews. Make it actually 40 or 45 minutes of actual storytelling. 2, make the episodes longer. Camp Half-Blood could have been 2 episodes on its own. Like, Percy training and trying to figure out his parents could have easily been its own episode, ending with him exploding the toilets.
Yeah.
That way we could have been introduced to other campers, the cabin heads, and see what their stories are going to be like and how they are going to be going on throughout it later. Because if this keeps going on the way that it is, we might still have that same issue that we have in the books, is that we're not going to know these characters. We're just going to meet them last minute, and who the hell cares what happens to them?
Yeah. The last change that I want to talk about, and we'll move off of this, is the love tunnel scene was changed a lot. We saw Hephaestus when we normally don't. We did a river ride thing instead of the spiders, which my kids tell me the spiders are going to come up later. So that's kind of an important change because we're missing a very key weakness in Annabeth that is going to be used for character development and relationship development later on between Percy and Annabeth. So by not introducing that, we're kind of taking out a foundation for later. And I know this is kind of a weird thing, but Hephaestus is supposed to be real ugly, right? Like
He just looks like a regular like steampunk professor. Like, he doesn't look that bad. I mean, if you see like the graphic novels, oh my god, he's got like a big pear-shaped nose and it's really deformed, and he's got boils and all that. But
I thought he was supposed to be kind of hideous. I thought that was kind of his whole thing.
And again, the gods are also shapeshifters, so there's also that. But I do like the Hephaestus addition because Ares does come off as a bit of a douche, but he's also helping, so it does kind of show that the gods can help. But then you also have like, oh yeah, they're also dicks in the past, like showing how Hephaestus was outcasted simply because he was ugly, is showing his birth with his mother Hera. Then you also have him being a cuckold with Aphrodite and Ares. And I gotta say, that was visually stunning. I actually yelled at the TV when Percy was blocking the view with his head, and I couldn't see the rest of the screen. Go like, move your head, Percy, because I was just vibing to "What is love, baby? Don't hurt me, don't hurt me no more." Oh man, it sounded like that. You still have to feel bad for Hephaestus.
I do. So it's going well thus far. I've got some numbers here. According to Samba, about 900,000 households watched the first episode in that first week, or I guess the first 2 episodes, which by Disney standards is not fantastic, unfortunately. For most Star Wars properties, they're going to get in the mid to upper 1 millions. Obi-Wan was over 2 million. Book of Boba Fett was just shy of 2 million. Ahsoka was 1.2 million. Their Marvel properties on Disney will typically come in the low to mid 1 millions, usually around that 1.5 million. Secret Invasion was just under 1 million. Ms. Marvel was like 750,000. So this 900,000 number, it's kind of hard to judge because it's a brand new IP for Disney. It's not a long-standing thing like a Star Wars or a Marvel that's naturally going to attract more people. So for kind of a first-time crack, you could say that 900,000 is pretty good since they don't have a big universe and a whole lot of backstory to go on. But it is a little lower than their other stuff. So I'm interested to see how it continues and if they continue to make seasons out of more books. And if it's, I know you had mentioned that this is what they kind of want to be their Harry Potter. They want to make this kind of a long.
Maybe that's why there's actually 8 episodes. They wanted to get this out before the Harry Potter reboot on Max, but okay, yeah, this is something that could work because it's a long-running book series. There are numerous sequels and spin-offs, new characters that they
Yeah.
could do later on. And I'm a little bit afraid of what they're going to do with some characters. Like one of them who becomes very popular is Nico, and he's gay. And that's just no, Disney, don't tokenize him. He's a good character with his own story. Do not mess this up. But okay, so this was also, a book adaptation that came out in the early 2000s.
Hmm.
Not only is it, just, like a regular book series, but it's also a book series that came out way before, long ago, and also I'm trying to think of the right phrase, but there wasn't much pop media. Like maybe the musical helped, but when it came down to it, there wasn't as enough pizzazz and too much usefulness. Unlike the Marvel comics, which has numerous iterations, it was longer. Like it was sent around in like the 40s or something like that. It has a longer established fan base. Where everyone now is most likely in their 20s when they first read the book, early 20s, mid 20s, now in the 30s. Maybe they could be introducing it to their kids, but they also sadly pissed off the fans when it came down to the controversies with the casting. So I feel like that's also a pretty big reason why there aren't as much. Not only because it's a smaller book series, one that Disney did not have the rights for until they bought Fox, which had some pretty big backlash from the movies, but also one that got little other adaptations and also controversy from the announcements. Hopefully they'll learn from their mistakes and progress in a better way. I really want this to work. And so far, it's on and off.
Yeah, I think they're getting, they're getting a start. I think I'm very optimistic. I know Amelia asked about, she's gone now, but maybe she'll come back and watch later. She asked if it was, if it was recommended or not. I recommend it, and I think that you can enjoy it even if you haven't watched the books. What do you think? Is this a recommend for you?
This is definitely a recommend if you want something new and fun. Because even if you don't read the books, it is still a fun series to read. You don't have to read the books because you will get used to it, but maybe just wait until it's over and then you can like binge watch it. Because
Yeah.
in terms of storytelling now, it's not too great. Most of the lines are just exposition dumps. We don't take time to breathe. Get me to Hollywood. I can fix this mess.
All right. So before we move on from Percy Jackson, I just want to give a thank you for RTNZ rather, who likes to believe that I am a less scary Matt Walsh, who is wait, hey, no, I'm not. Well, I am more excited than Matt. My wife wants me to pitch myself to other companies. She's like, you would be a great fit at Daily Wire. I'm like, they have me with a
Oh
beard.
yeah, Daily
So I
Wire.
don't need to work for them. I want to reach out. I'm a big fan of Angel Studios, as I've said a lot in the past. I want to reach out to them and say, hey, you need somebody to talk
Candace
show.
Owens, Ben
You need
Shapiro. Maybe try reaching out to them.
you need
Have
me.
you
Who?
seen Lady Ballers?
I haven't. I don't even want to. Like I'm going to because I've watched a lot of the Bent Key shows, and I'm gonna do a review of like their kids animation stuff, and I'm gonna have to mention Lady Ballers is just kind of a part of explaining why I'm a little leery of Daily Wire stuff. Like not their talk shows. Like I like to watch their talk shows because I agree with them politically, but I was nervous about their kids stuff because I just thought you guys are just gonna make conservative cartoons, and I don't
Like
really need that.
Chinchilla,
Um the
which is like their version of Bluey, but with like chinchillas. And apparently, it got mad when the dad who was a homeschooler, also got mad because they were teaching the kids about quote dead white men. Oh, like George Washington and people who helped forge our nation's history.
Yeah.
Something that normal schools do. My
The
God, seriously, why would they get mad? History is history.
yeah,
And
the
yes,
chinchilla
we
shows
could learn
actually.
about from other great leaders, but we can also learn from villains and learn how they fucked up with
Mhm.
whatever they did. History is not, it's mixed up. It's gray, it's white, it's black, it's a spectrum. All right. Sometimes we have great leaders who do great things, but they also have, some mistakes. But the past is the past, and coding up history or trying to hide it is not going to help anything. He who does not learn from the past is doomed to repeat it. And I am sadly seeing all that right now. But yeah,
Yeah.
when it comes to the Daily Wire, I do agree with some of their things, though maybe take it from try to find some sort of leeway. I'm kind of a libertarian. I want to feel like some common ground between both the left and the right, the Democrats and Republicans. I just want to find some sort of leeway, trying to find some common ground that we can all agree on. But now it seems like it's either all on one thing or nothing at all, sadly.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. No, I'm with you. I'm actually a member of the Libertarian Party. And RTNC also said I should hook up with Alan Richson, who plays Reacher on his YouTube channel. You know, I would love to, but I would feel so inferior to that guy. I don't know if anybody's been watching Reacher season 2. Of course, they found a reason to get his shirt off, and I mean, I'm just jealous. Like, dude is cut. I feel like he's on the roids, and I don't like to accuse people of that, but he looks unnaturally uh built. It's ridiculous.
That's
So
why my avatar comes with a 6-pack.
yeah, no, it's like an 8-pack. Yeah, I watched Jeremy Boring's video announcing like Snow White and stuff. He was I think he was doing the Pendragon set, and there's a castle and a lock in the background, and he did say they were going to call it Daily Wire Kids. And then they thought, nah, we don't want to call it that because we want to draw a line between this is our Daily Wire political content and then this is our kid stuff. So I respect that was the direction they went with. I was dubious, but I have watched a lot of their stuff, and it's just cartoons. So it's nice. Now, next thing with Disney is we've got this brand new show that dropped last week, Echo. And I know you said you haven't watched it. You've seen a lot of reviews. I've seen a lot of reviews. I've only seen the one episode because I was catching up on Percy Jackson this week, so we could talk about it. I got to tell you, the first episode I don't want to say it was just absolute shit. There were some interesting parts. I like the silence that they do every now and then. They switch to her perspective, and it's completely silent as she's moving around. That's kind of her perspective. So I think that's pretty cool. A huge shout out there was one moment, and this is such a niche thing to be upset about, but it's something that bothers me in movies, and this show got it right. A guy is texting somebody covertly, like, hey, I see this girl that you're looking for, and they just put the bubbles up on the screen. I didn't have to read somebody's phone over the cameraman over the shoulder while their hand is shaking, and I'm trying to read some of these texts as they zoom in on a fucking phone. Just put the bubbles on the screen. And I get more angry about that than I need to, but so many shows make me read a phone on the screen. Put them up on the screen. Anyway, they did that, and it was really, really good, and I really appreciate that. But what I'm interested in your take is, since I haven't seen the whole season, you haven't seen the whole season, we really can't review it, but I'm interested in what you think about it being TV mature and how that fits in with Disney's library. Do you think it's a good idea for Disney to have their main stuff and then have a little mature section? Or do you think that is a bad idea overall? And I would include, obviously, Deadpool. That's, rated R, very violent. Do you think, and I thought that movie was funny, do you think it's a good idea for Disney to do that, or should they just kind of say, no, our lane is family entertainment and we're going to stay there, and this is a bad idea? What are your thoughts on them doing a more mature, bloody, violent show?
Well, first thing I want to talk about is Echo, and I get what people are trying to praise it for with the Native American representation, because, okay, yeah, that would be pretty good. The problem is that this is the worst character for it. Like, she is just not the best. Like, she's a killer. She kills people without remorse, and yet, she only has one leg. She has the prosthetic leg. She's deaf and also Native American, and I feel like we're doing this to the wrong person. Secondly, when it comes down to the mature content with Disney did say that they weren't going to go past PG, but then we got the Pirates of the Caribbean films, and now Marvel, Star Wars with PG-13, and the other projects that would soon follow. So why not? Because, hang on, I wrote something down. Let's compare Disney and Netflix. Netflix is like an all-you-can-eat buffet. You have food from different regions, you have different flavors, different whatever. while Disney is more of a buffet, but only what they got is what they got. You have more limited options. Netflix has mature stuff, it has kids stuff, it has all sorts of materials that you can enjoy for yourself, while Disney Plus is only what they got, which is mostly PG stuff, a minimal amount of PG-13, and no mature stuff. And when it comes down to the mature content that Disney might be planning on releasing, I think maybe it could be a good idea, provided that they don't try to mess it up. Because all right, so it was announced that they're going to be doing a Hunchback of Notre Dame reboot. It might suck, but if they might, I've heard people say this. I've even heard Nostalgia Critic do it in one of his videos, which I did not realize is that they also did like a live action stage play of it, and it was dark like the original graphic novel and the other depictions. So if they do, they're not likely going to do it, but if they did, make it dark, make it like it was with the animated ones. Go into the dark features, the gothic design, add more mature features, because adults do want some stuff for themselves too. It can't always be PG stuff. And you know, you have adult settings, you have the parental block, you have codes. You can just create your own account and watch the mature stuff while locking your kids out with their own individual I'm trying to think of the term.
Their profile. That's what I had. We have a
Yes.
family profile, and I had to
Their own
create a
personal
dad
profile.
profile because our family profile is limited to like TV-14, and so I couldn't even watch Echo at first. I had to make another profile just so I could watch this show, so I could review it.
At least Disney is being aware that they can also edit the accounts to be, you know, parentally blocked for anyone that's under 14.
Yeah,
At least there's that, because if they do continue with the mature stuff, who knows what they're going to do. Maybe they're going to double down with the whole LGBTQ stuff, only with their mature content, because then you got adults who do understand it, while there are going to be kids who are, you know, yeah, they have the whole Ron DeSantis thing going on, and it's understandable. Let kids be kids. Let them grow up. Don't force this stuff on them. Like, let them learn history, let them learn their math, and once they get to high school, maybe if they're curious, explain it thoroughly. And I'm not talking about those weird books that explain, you know, they're just basically porn.
yeah.
Hey, I'm just curious though, how many people, like young boys in high school now, are trying to sneak in porn and saying, "I'm learning about my
Yeah. Hey,
sexuality, and if you have a problem, teacher, I will
I
report you." You see
I
what
found
kind
this
of
in the
loopholes
school
you're now trying
library.
to
This
get with stuff like
is
this?
approved.
Like, I get that not everyone is straight, but also not everyone is interested in sex. Like, that's something that a lot of people, you know, have you forgotten about asexuals? Maybe they're not interested in being trans or gay or bi. Maybe they just want to foreclose it altogether. Maybe they want a platonic relationship. But when it comes down to mature content from Disney, I think that maybe it's a good investment to start trying doing more adult edgy stuff, because the world, like, shattered in reality when Disney, of all companies, the family friendly, always nice, was doing a PG-13 movie, and that was Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
But now PG-13 is basically just extreme childishness with like maybe 3 or 5 swear words at a time. These ratings don't have any meaning anymore. But if you want to go edgy, if you want to make it more artistic, then yeah, go the mature route. Just make sure that if you're a parent, be aware of this and start, you know, parentally blocking and creating safe passwords and codes that your kids won't know.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
a it's a
what's
shot in the dark,
unfortunate,
but hey,
I think what's
maybe it'll
unfortunate
work.
with Disney is that there are a lot of stuff that is not classified as TV mature, but also parents don't want their kids to watch. And I think that that's the gray area that Disney is having a hard time with. Now, personally, I I don't think they need to make like mature Echo. I don't think they need to make Deadpool. As funny as I think it is, I do like Deadpool. I like that kind of humor. Um, I'm a basic guy.
Oh, I love
That's fine. I
Deadpool.
think it's hilarious. But I also think that Disney as a company is getting lost in the weeds and they're trying to do everything. I think that like Echo to me feels like they saw the success of Invincible and The Boys and they were like maybe we should dabble in that a little bit. Maybe we should maybe if we're a little gritty, people will like it. And I can tell you in the first episode, there is not, I don't think you can call it nudity because the gals are wearing like pasties and they have
Darker
body
nudity.
paint on, but it's recreating the some Indian myth of creation of people, and these people kind of like rise up out of the earth. So they're sort of covered in brown body paint and like mud, kind of, and they are walking over to some sort of mystic pool, but they're clearly naked. Now you don't see nipples because it's all smoothed over, and the same thing with the crotch, like it's smoothed over with obviously like some underwear and then the body paint. But it's, I mean, it's as close to nudity as you're going to get on screen without actually showing, you know, full nipple or something. Very, very much like Mystique in the X-Men movies, but with less texture like she had. And I'm still amazed they got away with that. But
Ariel and the Little Mermaid when she became human.
yeah, in the first episode, it just feels to me like I don't want to feel like I'm drawing a distinction because like I just think Deadpool is funny. I think they needed to go rated R to make that movie. Like a PG-13 version of that movie would not be as funny because the grotesque violence was part of the comedy, that it was so over the top. It was meta humor. Like that was what they went with. With Echo, just from the first episode, and I can't give a full review, it just feels like they thought, well, we can just show people getting stabbed. We can show bullet wounds. We can show this kind of faux nudity. It just feels like they just wanted to do it just for the sake of doing it. It doesn't really serve a purpose, and they could get around the things that are making it mature without having shown it. It just, I don't know. It feels like they thought it was going to be edgy and cool and get them attention. And I think that it's a distraction. As a company, I think that it's a distraction that they don't need to be engaging in.
Which is a cop out. If you're going to mature, go full on. Like, don't be bound by whatever the hell kind of laws are doing it. That kind of stuff is only good with PG-13. I mean, come on. Remember the Michael Bay movies? Those were violent and lots of swears, lots of alcohol, and also, partial the maybe a little bit of nudity. Like, you had guys in six packs showing off their chest, and you also had ladies in Victoria's Secret models. That's PG-13. Whatever the hell's going on now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not great. But yeah, I'm gonna watch the rest of Echo. I got a stream next week.
Oh, good luck.
And yeah, I'll be talking about it with some guys on Monday, getting the rest of that. But let's move on to, there was something
Coming up
that
next is Disney in Sophie's Choice.
when we were talking about setting the stream up, you had mentioned something that I thought was very, very interesting. You were saying that, we were going to talk about phases 4 and 5 in Marvel and the various mistakes they've made. But you said in Thor Love and Thunder, you would have liked to have seen them bring in some of the Norse pantheon, and you wanted to see Balder get brought in. And you had mentioned, I was confused because the only experience I have with Balder is from 2018's God of War, and he is kind of the main villain, a recurring villain in that game. And so we were talking, and Dante was like, I think that Thor should have teamed up with this guy Balder. He's the Norse god of like love and light. And I was like, that's not the guy. The guy that I know, Kratos was beating the hell out of and was beating the hell out of him. So what's your idea for how Thor and Balder could have teamed up? How do you see that going instead of the stupid slapstick comedy that we got with Thor Love and Thunder?
All right, guys, strap in because, boy, you're going to hear a mythology guy talking about the mistakes of this.
You got 6 or 7
so
minutes now. Keep it tight.
Okay, I'm going to keep this quick. Okay, instead of the slapsticky joke Thor who died of 1,000 jokes, that bullshit that Taika Waititi forced upon us as a nightmare. For this one, we're going to go a little bit more mature. Thor is, he lost his brother, his father, his mother. He's lost a lot of family. He's also proven himself to be not the right king, because the whole point of Thor is maturity. Thor was essentially the equivalent of a rich guy living off with his folks who's supposed to be taking on the CEO job, but he's still living up in his frat boy college years. The point of the first one was maturity. Thor was supposed to mature all the time, and with each movie, realizing what it takes to become a hero and a king, a better person than we used to be. But along the way, he keeps losing everyone. and went after, Endgame, he could have traveled to figure out what his real place is in the universe. So we all know that eventually they go to Eternia or whatever the place of that was. Can someone let me know in the comments what exactly that godly place was? What we could have gotten instead of just gods waiting for an orgy, maybe they were discussing about Thorn or Grog, the guy with the sword, the god butcher, which is not Kratos. All right, there's only one true god butcher. They are serious about this, but then Thor meets someone who he thought was dead, and that is Balder. Balder is the younger brother of Thor in mythology. He is the god of light, justice, and love. He's the god of all good things, and like in the God of War 1, Freya was also worried that her baby boy was going to die. So she cast a special protection spell or got everyone to promise not to hurt him, except for mistletoe, which because it was very young, so it couldn't form a contract. And so Loki, of all people, was the one who essentially killed Balder in the original mythology. So with the MCU, Loki could have just done it for shits and gigs, thinking that maybe he's not too invulnerable. Oh, Mama's little favorite boy. I already have to deal with Thor. This is such a Loki thing for him to do in this one. And when he does it, maybe it's the equivalent of a peanut allergy or an allergic reaction. The immortality thing comes undone, and he's essentially in a death coma or a near state death coma. And so he's taken to this city to be healed, and he doesn't wake up until after Ragnarok, just like in the mythology. He finds out that Asgard is destroyed. He thinks that everyone he's cared about is dead. So when he meets Thor in the city, they team up. Zeus and the others kind of agreed to help, but they also had to defend their city while many gods were coming in for refuge. So Balder agrees to go along with Thor, and Zeus gives him one of his lightning bolts along the way. Balder loves hanging out with Thor again, hearing about their adventures, and because this is important, Thor needs a brother. We all love the Thor and Loki dynamic that we got from the original movies, and that was clearly missing in this. Thor needed a buddy. He needed a brother. He needed help. So along the way, all the stuff happened, but Balder, he's starting to ask, wait, you became a hero? He spent a lot of time with these arrogant gods who kind of also did what they did and barely did any work. It still shows the darker, more selfish nature of gods, but also some who have matured along the way. But Balder is afraid of death. If he's going up against Grog, this devourer of light, this god slayer, he might be afraid of dying once again because, the whole mistletoe mishap kind of scarred him. So that all happens. Stormbreaker gets kidnapped or something. Balder kind of ditches Thor and the gang because he was afraid of dying again. But when it came back to finally facing the guy once again, I keep forgetting his name, but I'm sorry. Once again, instead of Thor giving his powers to kids with their little toys in that dark area full of shadows, Balder erupts in light, dispersing the monsters and showing selflessness and trying to stand up against the defenseless, being a hero, showing that he does have bravery and overcame the fear of death. And as for the whole Eternia thing, let's just say Balder kills Grog himself because he was afraid. Maybe he was about to strike Jane with a sword. Thor protects her so he would die instead of her, and Balder just mercilessly kills him. But in doing so, he also damages Stormbreaker, so no one gets their wish. Jane still dies of cancer, but in his dying words, Balder promises to be one of the good gods to help. That he would always go around helping people rather than being cooped up in the Golden Palace, because that's all he wanted. He needed to see that not all gods were selfish. So instead of that daughter that got brought back, that didn't happen. So in the end, Thor travels with his brother Balder and became the duo Love and Thunder. and Jane gets, she still dies. So along the way, until they get back to Earth, Balder could have been a good replacement for Thor because around Phase 4, everyone was trying to find replacements. You got Kate Bishop with Hawkeye, you have badly She-Hulk with Thor, and Ironheart with Iron Man, which no, bullshit. Iron Man has a daughter. Why not age her up a little bit and just make her the new Iron Man? Because she has to live with.
He's also
Yeah.
got that kid that he met in Iron Man 3 that, was
Oh yeah,
already
that. But I heard
had
a
a
lot of
barn
people saying
full of
that
stuff.
was actually like a young Peter, which is not that bad. But why not have other people try to take up the mantle? Because, like you said in the whole scene description, Riri sucks. Like, come on.
Yeah, it was rough. So what is I love this idea, especially how you tie it into Balder being, the god of love, and then that makes the love and thunder thing. It felt like at the very end of that movie, they were like, and now Thor has a daughter, and they called them Love and Thunder. And it was like, wait, you named this movie Love and Thunder for that line right at the end. It just felt like you shoehorned it in. But
Boo.
obviously, a lot of folks are unhappy with the direction of the MCU right now. So, if Marvel called you up, if Feige called you up and said, "Okay, look, we're taking a break in 24. Obviously, Deadpool is the only Marvel property we're putting out. We need your help,
Call
kind of
me
fixing
up.
some things up in 25." What's your solution to either are you going to get it back on track or are you going to reset it? And then what would be your 2025 plan for whatever direction you choose?
All right, folks, we got another one, and I'm going to be going into good detail because I've seen people seeing numerous theories of why a reboot wouldn't work, yet also at the same time, phases 4 and 5 are sucking.
Hmm.
So we find out that Deadpool is supposed to be brought in by the TVA, probably because of the whole time traveling shenanigans that he got after Deadpool 2.
Yep.
Maybe he's also going to be like, they're going to ask him to fix stuff. And in this way, they're going to be bringing in like the X-Men and the other Fox projects into the timeline because that has been a slow build up with mutants.
Yeah.
My
Well,
theory is,
the end of the
um,
Marvels really confirmed that they're going forward on mutants for sure.
my pitch for the whole idea is that a reboot could happen, but okay, so we have all the branches, we have all the multiverse timelines. We need to first ditch it. The multiverse was fine, but as stated by South Park, people are just tired of the multiverse trend now. So, in
Yep.
a typical Deadpool fashion, maybe he could like find a way for the TVA to like smash all of them together rather than erasing them. So in this, all the timelines just merge together as a singular timeline. But
Hmm.
in doing so, we keep phases 1 through 3. We keep the good stuff, and we either retcon or maybe fix all the mistakes that we got from phase 4. So no She-Hulk, because who the hell is going to miss it? No She-Hulk. Falcon continues to be Falcon, not Black Falcon.
Yeah.
And we also get to keep the original team of Avengers. Maybe I don't know how to feel about the Spider-Man thing because that actually was a good film. The problem with it is that it relied too much on the crutch of Sony. Well, it was more than a crutch; it was more like a wheelchair. They were the ones leading Spider-Man along in that one. But
So
yeah,
if you're keeping like some of these original characters and stuff, so would your plan be you just kind of want to see a continuation of these phases without the unpopular characters? And would you be leading up to like a phase 6 big ending like the Infinity Saga, which they clearly were trying to do with Kang, but now they can't because Kang is got legal trouble. The one force in the universe that could bring Kang low is the US legal system. But um the um so you would keep on going, and then where would you kind of head off your version at?
Okay, so phase 4 was clearly supposed to be more of a cash grab, but there was supposed to be more of a story to it. For one, all the survivors who survived Thanos' attack needed to grieve. WandaVision, as good as it was mostly supposed to be just her grieving the loss of Vision. And that was good up until the end. And, in the introduction of new heroes, younger heroes who probably were inspired by the Marvel heroes, and everything that they did also needed to happen. So Scott Lang's daughter was not a preachy liberal bitch. she could have been more protective of her dad, fearing that he would lose his life again. Ant-Man 3 could have ended not as it did with Kang being defeated, but like maybe they stalled his plan because time works weird in the quantum realm, and it just makes everything just worthless. As
Yeah.
for Kang, if they still had Kang, because I doubt they're going to be anymore, if Deadpool restarted everything, Kang could have been like a newer, fresher variant. He's not out there yet, but he is somewhere. Maybe
Yeah.
on an alien planet or something. But the result of what he did would also bring in the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, which, by the way, they could have already worked in mutants. Think about it. All right. You've heard of nuclear fallout, right? Nuclear waste and radiation leaving behind after a blast.
Sure, which the Skrulls are immune to, but nobody knew that until the show, and there was a big old fight about where they would live, even though they had a perfectly safe place to live. But whatever. Yes,
Okay,
yes,
so
I
with
have heard of it.
Endgame and Infinity War, Earth was secluded to 3 Infinity Stone snaps. And Rocket said that they were able to pinpoint the location of the blast, just like you do with a bomb.
Yeah,
Because Earth was subjugated to 3, the first one from Thanos, then the second one from Hulk, and then the third one from Iron Man. What if all that radiation just, like started to mute all that cosmic ray energy, the gamma radiation, as Hulk called it, which was mostly that, started to mutate people on Earth, which would create the mutants. The cosmic radiation caused by it started creating mutants.
yeah.
That would have been better than just this weird multiverse shtick. We could have also gotten like a couple of new actors for it, but as it is now, I highly doubt it. But there was a setup for it. There's
Yeah,
also a lot of people
it's like
saying that
they were
Magneto.
flirting with it a little bit. They wanted Ms. Marvel to be a mutant, sort of, and now they've introduced mutants. But the problem is, I don't know if you saw the Marvels, but they introduced the mutants, but it was in another universe. Monica Rambeau, they tear a hole in the space-time continuum, and then she closes it from the other side. And then she meets the mutants on that side. So they're introducing it, but it's not in the same Earth as all the rest of the Marvel stuff that we've been seeing, which I think is that's 616, I think. So my personal theory, like I like your idea of continuing it and trimming off the bad stuff. I'm on the opposite end though. I think it's full reboot time. And to be perfectly
Ben,
clear,
wasn't that the
I think
saying all the characters and stories you love are crap and now don't matter?
well, I think that they've carried it so far that and this was a big criticism pointed out to Loki was a big target for this was people were like, look, he's done the same arc multiple times. He's done, I'm a villain, but oh, I regret that. Now I'm a good guy. Nope, I betrayed you. I'm a villain. No, I regret that. I want to be a good guy. Nope, I betrayed you. I'm a villain. No, I want to be a good guy. Like the 3 times now, he's gone through the same character arc and keeps learning the exact same lessons. And I think a lot of the characters were that way. The only ones that I think really got the appropriate send off were Iron Man and Captain America. They kind of did a few of the same arcs in slightly different ways, but after a while, you just run out of things for a character to grow and learn. And I think also the universe starts to just get real big and complicated. And for me, I think what they need to do now that it's been 15 years of this is they need to hang an under new management sign on the franchise, make a clean break, and just say, okay, we're starting over fresh. That way, I liken this to like the new 52 comics. DC was like, look, we understand that a lot of people feel intimidated about jumping into comics, so we're doing a completely start over event. I think Flashpoint is what kicked that
Yeah,
off, and then they did the new
basically
52
the
launch,
Flashpoint.
and they were like, this is for everybody that's never read comics. This is totally new shit. You don't have to have any knowledge of this. This is totally new world. Nothing pre-Flashpoint we're going to reference. Total fresh start. And I think that's what the MCU needs, because you're talking about a 15-year-old franchise. You're talking about they're trying to attract fans that were toddlers when this stuff came out to begin with. You're talking about 37 movies, I think, at this point, and a dozen shows that you need to catch pieces of. And people are getting tired of it. The multiverse is getting too big and it's stretching the story out, and you just have characters that nobody cares about. And I think rather than trying to bend the franchise back to where it belongs, my solution would be to just make a big PR announcement and say, look, guys, we're just going to stop. We're just very, very much the way that DC did. They were just like, we're done. We're done. We're starting over. And we're just going to get a clean slate. And I think they would start over with the X-Men and maybe the Fantastic Four, because the X-Men have a ton of very recognizable characters. So they could kind of restart it the way they did with the original MCU was, hey, you've heard of Captain America, you've heard of Iron Man, you don't really need to know who Black Widow is, but she's got those things and they're great. And you've heard of Hawkeye, and you've obviously heard of the Hulk. We got all the people that you casuals heard of, and I'm one of those casuals. And I think that's another big dirty secret that really big fans of like the comics and stuff don't like to admit, is that Marvel needs the casuals in order to make the franchise work. You don't sell $1 billion worth of box office tickets without the normies. You have to include them. You have to loop them in. And if you start getting into C and D tier characters, you start getting into niche stories, you start getting into weird books that are not very popular and well known by the normal audience, people just aren't really going to show up. They're just not invested. So I think you start over with the big people that everybody, you know, Jean Grey, you know, Jubilee, you know, Storm, you know, Wolverine for damn sure, you know, Cyclops. We're going to have the big heavy hitters right there. People are going to come in because even if you didn't read the comic books, you sure as hell saw the 90s animation, and you're going to want to come see where we go from here. And you don't have to worry about any of the things we've been doing for the last 15 years. That's 1.0. We're going 2.0 now. It's a fresh start. And I think it would bring in a lot of the audience that just kind of has this MCU malaise with the whole franchise.
Yeah, great. This could actually be a good video topic all on its own, where you explain it to the fans of this compare and contrast idea. So maybe you could play a little bit from this live stream and trying to make the point across in the new video. I'm sure other fans will probably comment down below of how they feel. But yeah, I do get what you mean. It is time to hang out the student mantle, and maybe, well, if they feel like it, maybe a return, like he's back, if Robert Downey Jr. ever feels like trying to continue his career again. So,
yeah.
real quick,
I mean, he said he's done, and I think it was good for him to be done. I think it would cheapen his death and his sacrifice and his whole arc if they brought him back. I think that would be really, really bad.
All right, so real quick, what else do you want to talk about?
All right, so the last two things. One, something that I'm very, very excited about is this animation Kickstarter that's going on for this book series called the Cradle series. Have you ever read this? Have you heard of this?
No, I have not. But after doing a little research, it seemed pretty good, and I'm glad that it's being animated, because fuck live action.
Yeah, no,
you're so limited with if you're so limited with live action. If you want to do something fantastical, you got to use CGI anyway.
Exactly, and it ends up looking bad.
On animation, you can take your time, make sure everything is picture perfect, not just going back for reshoots and just ugly CGI.
Yes.
Plus, also when it comes down to voice acting, who gives a fuck about who looks like the way that they do with the characters? Who cares?
Right.
That's well. Oh yeah. Also, I wanted to say that Percy Jackson should have been animated. Make it Avatar style or something.
I think everything should be. I'm with you on this one. I think animation is the way to go. Either do it Avatar style or do it Arcane style. You know, get stylized with 3D models if you want to. I like 2D. I think animation is vastly underrated, and people think, oh, we need to do CGI. Why? You're absolutely right. If you're gonna go to the computer to generate CGI, why don't you just generate the animation and just leave it? So this,
by the way,
this series.
Here's just something for you Avatar fans. I met Dante Bosco at Fan Expo during the first weekend of January, and I shit you not, when he was at a panel asking about the whole live action Avatar remake, he said to the audience, and I quote, "Who asked for this?" Like, we all had a little discussion about going on saying, can't we just make animated versions of live action stuff? And I yelled out, "Die Hard." And everyone cheered. Animated Die Hard. Now that would be awesome. Why not just make animated stuff of live action stuff rather than the other way around?
That would be another fan project to do. So this
whole Kickstarter is something that I am interested in, because I am actually trying to make my own Kickstarter. Like, I'm on the side, I'm also trying to write a book series called The Angels of Hades. The main character is Dante. He has his twin sister, Vanica. They're Italian descendant, but they're also, this is Percy Jackson inspired, but the kids are also demigods of Hades. I wanted to go for that darker aesthetic, just try to do
Yeah.
something else other than just another child of Zeus or Poseidon. Try an underdog or underutilized one. The brother is supposed to be symbolic of Tartaros, and the sister is supposed to be symbolic of like Elysium, which is like the Greek equivalent of heaven
Hmm.
in the underworld. So
Well, it's a
purification
good
of
time for
souls
it because
versus the damnation. That's something I'm trying to do on the side. I'm trying to make characters, and I need a Kickstarter. And
yeah,
it this is something that I'm glad the Kickstarter is trying to do, and that is bringing attention to new products. Because people are getting tired of reboots, remakes, reshoots, all that, they're going to
yeah,
start making their own projects. They're going to try making their own, like Game of Thrones, their own Marvel Cinematic Universe. People just do what Japan is doing and make your own stuff. And
yep,
through the right channels, get attention. It can work. Try to go through that bullshit Hollywood media gatekeeping. Your idea can work if you work hard enough. I've been working on my idea for like 2 years and I'm almost done. I'm also working on, character designs, an art book. I'm trying to make this a project worth investing in. And I'm glad that Cradle, I do want to see this and see how good it is. Because if it's going animation, oh hell yes, I'm going to be invested.
yeah. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be really good, and I think right now is a good time for your stuff because, with Riordan being so popular, everybody's. I think the adapted mythology is going to be a new big thing. I mean, obviously he's been popular for a long time. Percy Jackson is like a new phenomenon, but I foresee that being kind of a big deal with the God of War games coming up. I think these mashups of mythologies from around the world and adapting them in like a low fantasy type setting, I think that's going to be a big deal going forward. So I hope that you bring that out. This book series it's kind of Asian based, and it's 12 books, but they're pretty short. So if you guys are watching, I do recommend this. They're quick reads. They're very, and I mean this in the nicest way. They're very boy books. It's all action. It's nonstop. It's breakneck pace. There is not a ton of exposition. There is not a ton of there's not a ton of breaks. We're not taking breaks in this one. We are going. The
Hey,
idea
wherever says
behind
Vox
this,
Machina style, yes.
yeah.
And boy style. That's something that Star Wars and Marvel used to be.
Hmm. Well, and what I like about this, what was funny is my wife actually found this, and she wanted
Oh
my son to
wow.
read it because the main character Lyndon. The idea is that everybody in this world has like a core in their body, and they have this stuff called Madra, which is basically like chi, and they focus it and they improve their core. Like there's literally a leveling system, uh, and it increases, and they have levels for it. But he is deemed to not have any kind of internal power or whatever. And so he spends his life as a person who is unsold. That's what the name of the first book is. And what makes this such a great book for boys is that he basically learns how to do things without the enhanced, strength and the chi energy that everybody else seems to have. Well, then later in the book, he kind of develops a way to work around this. But throughout the series, he's not just the most powerful guy in the room. He's the smartest guy in the room. He's the most resourceful guy in the room. And it makes him a very interesting character because he overcomes challenges in unique ways, while everybody else is so focused on their power level and their martial arts style going against each other. He combines different things in unique ways. And that's how he's able to overcome it. And also, there is an interesting there's like a cosmic element to it. Like he finds out the planet that he's living on is just one of many, and there's this whole cosmic order that goes on, and so he has to level up, quite literally level up all the way to the highest orders in order to save his people. So they're going to make this first book an animation if he can hit $1 million, which he's already 6/10 of the way there. So I think he's going to hit it. I'm going to sign up for this probably at
Hey,
the
Vernon,
high
down in the
level.
chat about the whole cultural appropriation thing. You know
Hmm.
what they say? If you make the mob, if you make the mob on Twitter angry, you're doing something right.
Yeah,
But I just say, don't be afraid to be creative. If you take inspiration from something, go for it. Who cares? It's not cultural appropriation. It is cultural appreciation. There's a
yeah.
difference.
So the last thing I want to talk to you about is just to wrap this up. Since Cradle is getting this animation, and we're talking about animation being so great, I know we're going to talk about this a lot more when we do the next session. We're going to talk about anime a lot and live action stuff. What
Yeah.
what do you think? What's your prediction for what animation is going to do the live action thing next? Obviously, One Piece was very popular. People have very high hopes for the Airbender Netflix version coming up at the end of February. What do you think is the next anime or animated series that's going to get the Netflix or whatever live action treatment?
Oof, this is a big one because when it comes down to the live action adaptations of, animated stuff, it depends also on who's actually licensed to show it. They got to get through all that. But when it comes to popularity in the anime franchise, Naruto is possibly a good chance because I think Naruto was actually announced that there was a live action adaptation being made in the process a little bit before the One Piece. The problem
Mhm.
is that they got one of the writers from The Witcher to work on it. So that's a red flag right there after seeing what happened with that. And there's also another one called Sword Art Online that could work in terms of the fantastical elements of the world building. Like there are different. All right, so if you have not seen Sword Art Online, it's about a guy named Kirito who goes into a virtual reality online mobile RPG game. He and everyone else on the server gets stuck there. They can't log out, and their bodies are immobile. They can't do anything, and the only way out is to beat the game. They have to go after floor after floor. The problem is that if they die in the game, they die in real life because the helmets that they wear that augment the reality is using like minor, small radio wave radiation to like scan the brain. And if you die, it fries your brain. You die in real life. And the same also happens when you take off the helmet forcefully, or let it die. It is bad. It is dark. So a good way to and Sword Art Online sadly got a bad reputation because of the things that I can't really say, but for those who know, they know. So a live action reboot could actually be a good way to make characters seem more important, make characters seem actually worth hearing a story about. If you do want a good brief way to go through Sword Art Online, look up the abridged version because they fix so many issues and it's just so dang funny.
Yeah. So, and
But
that's another one that
Naruto
I
and
think
Sword Art Online could be the next big ones. And
I
as long as they get someone who knows what the hell they're talking about or get the creator involved on it,
that's
then
the
yes,
thing, get the
it
creator
could
involved.
work because One Piece and Yu Yu Hakusho worked on Netflix because they got the original actors, or not the actors, but the creators on board. They got people who know what they're doing. Henry
Yeah.
Cavill from The Witcher is also doing a Warhammer adaptation, and he's a big fan, and he advocated for The Witcher being more reluctant to the source material. But then you got the
Yeah.
Netflix player, people saying, "Oh, fuck off, we're gonna do our own shit." Oh yeah, that worked out great. Get fans, or get the creators, or get fans who know what the hell they're doing, and that way, live action adaptations can work.
Yeah. So I think that I think Sword Art would be a good one. Not that I know anything about it, but I think it would be a good one because I've heard of it, right? And again, that it goes back to you need the normies. Like it or not, you gotta loop us in if you want the numbers. And you have to just go with has a normal person heard of this? You know what I mean? Somebody said Berserk would be a good one. Demon Slayer
Oh
would be a
yeah,
good one, right? Those are popular. Like people have heard of those, even if I've never seen them. I reckon. Oh yeah, that's an anime. I know that that is an anime, and that right there puts it head and shoulders above so many other anime. Just the fact that non-anime watchers have heard of it. Or there is another one. It's just four letters. I don't know what they say. Is it red, yellow, white, black, or something to that effect? It's
Ruby.
yeah.
The title is supposed to be Ruby, so WRBY.
Yeah. So I've heard of that one, right? That one might fly. Basically, if you just go find a person on the street and say, "Hey, what are some animes that you've heard of?" and they're going to say, "All right, yeah, I've heard of the Naruto or something to that effect. I've heard of maybe this Berserk thing people talk about." I think those are the next ones that need to be made if they're going to go live action, because I think part of the reason that One Piece works so well, first of all, it's the best selling manga and I believe
Oh
anime
yeah,
in history. and I mean, it's beloved. It's an excellent story. People just can't say enough nice things about it. So I think that it worked because it's based on a great product already. And I think that Airbender has a really good chance of being good for that same reason. And so you kind of need that popularity to get it going, just the same way that I think the MCU kicked off with these popular characters that even regular folks are like, oh, I think I've heard of that. I'll go check this movie out. You have to start with the most popular stuff. So I think those are the ones that'll do really good. And I'm interested. I'm interested in the Airbender one. I asked my daughter about it, who's like she's 15, she's super into it. She's the one that's like begging me to watch the show. We're watching and I'm loving it. And she's funny because I was like, what are you thinking? And she's like, I mean, it might be good, but it doesn't matter. Like it's pointless. She goes, this show is pointless. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, we already have the like, why would I need to watch this this live action? And I think
Yeah,
that is
like Dante said,
against it.
who asked for this?
Well, with One Piece, it's 1,000 episodes plus.
Oh yeah, that's okay. For something like that, I get why. It's been going on since 1999 and is still going on to this day. The recent arc is called Wano, and it ended just about recently, and it took the span of 5 years. And a manga and anime arc should not be the equivalent of World War II.
But yeah, I mean, so you got to get people caught up. You know, I understand Naruto's the same way. It's like almost 800 episodes. So yeah, you're going to truncate that.
Yeah,
you're going to deliver it
filler
in a live action for people to consume. But I just feel like Airbender, it's only 60 episodes across 3 seasons.
There's only like one very bad episode, and that was the Great Divide, which even the creators even said that like in season 3 during the whole like show flashback thing, let's just keep flying. Everyone hates it. It's not that bad an episode, but it's not a great Avatar episode.
Well, I appreciate you being here tonight. That's all I got. And like I said, everybody, if we are gonna meet again probably in 2 weeks once I've had a chance to watch some anime and read some manga, and we're gonna talk about more anime related stuff. So I hope you guys join us then, and I really appreciate you joining us this evening and joining in on the chat and interacting with us.
Make a little announcement.
Of course.
All right, so thank you so much for having me on. This is my first collab, and I'm glad I was able to talk to you, like fan to fan. And for anyone interested in my channel, there actually was an Attack on Titan Fast Magic. There actually was a live action, but it was made in Japan. Anyway, if you're interested in my channel and want to know more things other than anime, I am going to be working on a top 10 video games adaptations into a TV series, because video games and anime adaptations seem to be the future. Go to my channel. I'm going to have a video up hopefully soon. I'm kind of in the process moving. I'm going to have a couple more episodes here and there. Go to my YouTube channel, check out some videos that might pique your interest. Comment down below, and hopefully I can get some more material out there. I'm always looking for new ideas. I definitely need them. But yeah, an upcoming video is video game adaptations that can work.
Cool. Well, guys, check out his channel and come back in a couple of weeks and hear an anime newbie being led by the hand through the Anime Underworld. Dante, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you folks on the next stream. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.